ever been in situations when somebody has to tell you that you're under stress because they're seeing it and for some reason you can't see it? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So,
girl,
I'm not God and neither are you. And he didn't ask me or you to do his job, right? So we gonna pass that job back on to him and move on with our lives. And
okay.
let's talk. I want to talk to you a little bit about the real ways that stress shows up in your life as a black woman. Okay? And honestly, I really want to share this with you because I remember going through seasons of my life where I was under a tremendous amount of stress, and I really, really wish I had known the signs, um, because interestingly enough, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize how much stress I was under. I didn't realize the signs or the symptoms of stress at that time. And I think that sometimes when you're dealing with stress, you can get so used to it that you kind of become desensitized. You know what I mean? Where you don't even recognize it in yourself. And have you? So we're going to talk about that today because I think it's important. Because to be honest, girl, I went through some seasons of stress in my life, and after in the aftermath, right? I developed a little bit of resentment because I felt like the people around me, some of the real people, in my life, should have pulled me aside and been like, girl, girl, you need to sit down for a minute. But they didn't. And so I have spent some time wondering why. And this is what I come up with. Because, girl, a lot of people think that that's normal. They recognize it and they see it, and they are blind to seeing the signs of stress in your life because they're blind to seeing it in their own lives. And so with this video, I want you to recognize it for yourself because there's a good chance that the people around you, especially if they're benefiting from your overstress, that they're not going to tell you that you seem overstressed. Let me just tell you that right now. So let's get into it. I only have a few of them, so we won't be here long. But number one is hypervigilance. Hypervigilance and emotional guarding. So if you're someone and you're constantly feeling like you need to be on alert, like, you know what I mean? You constantly like ready for something to pop off. You constantly in a state of being ready to respond, that no matter what the situation comes up, that you feel like you're ready, that's a sign that you're under stress. I'm sorry. I recognize that it may seem normal, may feel normal. You may have been told that it's normal, right? The people around you may be that way, and so therefore you think it's normal. But let me tell you, it's not. It's a sign of stress. And how have I seen this? I'm going to give you an example so that you can understand what I mean. Depending on where you live, what country, what state, have you noticed that sometimes in some areas that you go to, that there's a whole different level of stress in that entire city? And in fact, the people and the way that they respond, they're on a level of constant high alert. And so when you're not from there, when you go there, you're like, oh my gosh, why is everybody stressed out? I feel that way when I go to New York City. I love y'all. I love my New Yorkers. I love y'all. But it's a whole different level of stress. It's a whole different level of stress. And it's almost palpable, right? You can even see it in how people respond. Like, I remember I was in the airport, and I ain't gonna lie, JFK is one of my least favorite airports because just sometimes the interactions that I have with people, because it's almost like they're ready for a conflict. They're ready for a confrontation. They're ready to respond. And so it's like automatically you get that snapback regardless of what you're talking about. Like there's a defense. And so if you are in a place where you're constantly feeling hypervigilant, where you're constantly feeling like you need to be ready to respond, that you have to remind yourself, oh, I didn't have to take it that far. I took that too far. It was really not that much of a big deal. It's because something in your life is stressing you out. Something is keeping you on high alert. And yes, I wish I would have known that, or I wish someone would have told me that. But definitely it can show up with emotional guarding, right? You're constantly maybe trying to guard yourself from things that might come in. You are not allowing yourself to react or feel emotional over things. Those are emotional guarding, and that's a sign that you are under stress, that you're responding to stress. Another one is chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue, just feeling generally exhausted, feeling that no matter how much sleep that you get, you wake up feeling tired. In the middle of the day, you're tired. At the end of the day, you're tired. You're kind of in this cycle of just feeling tired. And that is a sign that you are overstressed. Now, definitely there are other reasons why you may be fatigued, but I'm talking specifically about stress. So that's what we're talking about. Definitely, if it's unusual for you, go see someone, right? Go to the doctor. Let someone do some tests, right? We don't want to assume it's just stress, but if the tests are done, if all the diagnosis came back and they're like, no, you're all good, you're great, you're in good health, but you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not, right? Think about whether or not it could be stress. The other one that I see really big, especially in Black women, will be hair and skin issues. So if you are starting to experience like hair loss, higher rates of hair shedding, alopecia, changes in your skin, right? You're starting to get patchiness in your skin or rashes in your skin. And again, like I said, I'm not your doctor. I'm a nurse, but I'm not your nurse. So it's definitely, if these things come up in your life, I'm all about seeking professional attention, right? Go in, let someone check you out, right? We don't want to be at home diagnosing ourselves, especially if we have genuine concerns. But I also believe that we can also take the time to listen to our own bodies, right? When it's gotten to a point that when it's time to go in. But before that time, I think it's good for us to be checking in with ourselves, right? It's good for us to be paying attention to what is normal for us, and what is this change, and when did I notice this change, and has it progressively worsened, right? Because if those things are happening, then you definitely want to do an assessment of what's going on in your life that may be contributing, right? Make adjustments within your life as you're able in order to decrease that stress. Another one that I see is, and this is a common one, so I'm sure you're familiar with this, but this internalized pressure to be strong, this internalized pressure to like be silent, right? To just stand up, to stand strong, to be immovable, to be unshakable. Is that what they say? To be unmovable, unshakable, to be like the person who doesn't need help, to be like the person who never sheds a tear, to be like that person who doesn't, need a hand or a shoulder to cry on. Girl, not in this neighborhood. Over here, we're fragile, right? We're fragile over here. We're soft. We need loving kindness, right? So if you are feeling the constant need to be strong, be superwoman, you got on that superwoman cape, it's likely the result of stress. You are likely being overstressed, and that is a response that your body is having as a result. You thinking that you can't feel feelings and you can't express your emotions and you can't respond to things, right? Because all of those things are possibly going to create backlash or responses that are not pleasant. But let me tell you, that's a sign that you're stressed, because truthfully, you should be able to express yourself. You should be able to be weak, right? In times of weakness, it makes sense, right? You should be able to cry, right? You should be able to ask for help, to ask for assistance, to require that people who are, in your circle, contribute, right? To your well-being, to the well-being of the upholding of things, that you're not carrying it all by yourself, that you're not carrying the burden and the weight on your own. That is stressful. Let me tell you, that is stressful. It's not worth it. Like I said at the beginning, I'm a former overworked nurse because I took off that cape. I handed in that card. I said, y'all can have that back. I do not need that level of stress in my life. It is not worth it. The next one the next sign that I would say is definitely role strain, or like cultural burnout. So if you are to the point, which I know that I got to this point a couple years ago, if you're to the point that you need to completely kind of disengage with certain things that are affecting, I'm going to say specifically Black people, there's so much negative news right? That happens when things happen to Black people. And if you are getting to the point like I don't want to hear about or see one more thing on the news, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to disengage for my own mental health. That's a sign that you are stressed. You are stressed out. And I'm glad that you're deciding to disengage, because you likely need to do that for the sake of your mental health, right? Because the truth is, even though you want to remain aware, like we all want to remain aware of things that are going on, but not at the expense of our peace, not at the expense of our mental health, right? Not at the expense of us being able to get a good night's sleep, being able to relax and rest. Because truthfully, being involved in all that and being engaged in all that, what is it doing for you? What is it doing for your health? It's not helping you, right? How much impact are you having by mourning and grieving over and over again, except for creating trauma response after trauma response in your own body, in your own mind, in your own heart? How much do you think that your body and your mind and your soul can take? We can only take so much, right? And you know the book, The Body Keeps the Score. You can only take so much, right? So yeah, if you're starting to feel burnout, if you're starting to feel like it's too much, that's definitely a sign that you are stressed. We need to bring things down a few notches. Another one is definitely like, the standard things like the somatic complaints of like headaches, stomach issues, if you're having gastrointestinal upset, digestive issues, a lot of bloating, you're unable to digest your food, muscle tension, you're starting to develop chronic pain. These are oftentimes overlooked signs of stress because you're thinking it's related to something else. But regardless of what the issue is, let me be honest, regardless of what the issue is, reducing your stress can't hurt. Reducing your stress cannot hurt whatever is going on in your life. So, once you've gone in and you checked yourself out and made sure that there's nothing else going on, reducing your stress will always help, whatever the condition is, whatever the origin is. So, and then the final one, this is the last one. I think this is going to be number 7. Is having a heightened sense of responsibility. And this kind of goes back to the other one that I was speaking about, but I want to specifically talk about this heightened sense of responsibility, especially for us as Black women, because a lot of us who are overstressed are high achievers, right? We have high expectations of others, but more importantly, we have high expectations of ourselves. Like many of us may be high educated, right? Girl, I got all the degrees. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I know I told you I'm a nurse, but I don't even want to tell you how many degrees that I have, how many certifications and how many licenses. It's too much. Because of this heightened sense of responsibility, right? This sense of feeling that we need to achieve and overachieve and overachieve. And many of us are overachievers. And with that being said, we don't even realize that we are taking on more responsibility than we ought to. We don't even recognize that in times where we can set a boundary and we can have the option to not take on additional work, that we're giving ourselves additional work. And I think it's so interesting because I realized that, before my 30th birthday, I had about 5 degrees, including a master's and now a doctorate, right, in my 30s and all of this. And I was like, girl, why are you doing so much? Like, why are you doing so much? And I realized it's because of that heightened sense of responsibility, not only to carry my weight, but to carry the weight of all the people behind me, right? Feeling like it's my job to bring everybody forward. Feeling like that it's my job to withstand, right? That somehow if I stand and then I'm holding all of us up. But girl, I'm not God and neither are you. And he didn't ask me or you to do his job, right? So we gonna pass that job back on to him and move on with our lives. And so what signs of stress do you recognize in your life? I know that I really wish someone had told me that I was having signs of stress, because honestly, I think I was under stress for a long time, many years. when I was working as a nurse, working 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs at a time, that I became just numb to feeling my own stress, right? Like I didn't even feel it anymore. I wasn't even aware, right? Until I got to the point that I was completely burnt out. And I would not wish that upon anyone. But nevertheless, that's all that I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, bye.